Welcome back. You're watching GE Presents Healthier India, and today we are focusing on cardiovascular disease. Now, in this part of the show, we're going to address the issue of cost.
With Indians being identified as genetically the most vulnerable to cardiovascular diseases in the world, the health impact is being felt economically as well. Between 2005 and 2015, India is projected to cumulatively lose close to $250 billion because of heart disease, stroke and diabetes combined. A figure which could potentially shave off 1% from the national GDP.
Well, unfortunately, as a cardiologist, I must confess that all affairs of the heart are very expensive. So one has to ensure that the costs can be contained. There should be a system of universal health coverage, which is mostly tax funded, but can be supported by employer-provided insurance and supplemented by some of these other schemes that the government now has, so that in an integrated universal health coverage scheme, life-saving treatment for people with cardiac conditions is always available and not a matter of chance or charity.
So let's go across to our panelists straight away. And Dr. Devi Shetty, let me start with you, because the cost of cardiovascular disease, if you just start off from the basic tests that one has to do to the final treatment, on the face of it, are fairly high. How do you really address this issue in keeping the costs under control, especially in a country like India?
The only option we have in our country is to go for a low-cost health insurance, like what Karnataka state implemented around 10 years ago. We conceptualized a concept of a micro-insurance with a premium of 5 rupees per month. And for 5 rupees per month, when millions of people contribute, they can undergo any treatment, including heart surgery. And in 10 years, nearly 60,000 farmers had a heart operation just by giving 5 rupees per month. And everyone should urge their state government to launch a micro health insurance scheme where they can contribute. That is the only way forward. Taxpayers' money can't pay for the health care. And your hard-earned money, whatever you have saved, can make you go bankrupt with just one heart operation.
Absolutely, you're right, because there is the urban side where you can, you look at the kind of rising costs, and there are schemes such as yours and others that have been introduced wherein it becomes so much more accessible. So what really stops, for instance, other governments, Dr. Shetty, in your experience?
The biggest problem is the indifference by the policymakers. It is very important that the people pressurize the government to come up with this type of low-cost micro health insurance program. You look at South India, we started with Karnataka state, then Andhra Pradesh government started, then Tamil Nadu government started, now Maharashtra government is starting. Virtually all the southern Indian states are covered by micro insurance. But if you look at northern and eastern India, there is very little effort by the private bodies as well as the government to come up with a scheme. The only option people have is to pressurize the government to come up with these schemes. People today do not mind contributing a small amount of money. We have 850 million mobile phone subscribers who are spending 150 rupees per month just to speak on a mobile phone. And if you tell them there is a scheme for 10 rupees or 20 rupees, they don't mind contributing that money.
That message comes across. Dr. Kasiwal, we just heard the North perhaps is not addressing this, and private players need to do more on this front. I know the group in the institution that you represent has been trying to further this, but what is the roadblock here? Why aren't we spreading this message out? Because on the face of it, it's very simple, it's cost effective, and people are utilizing it.
Everybody's not really that aware. Even now, a person who we have done an angioplasty will come and say after 3 months, can I put a little ghee on my roti? When you say, look, trans fats are bad, and we explain, we give them booklets. So I think this information, this knowledge that large institutions have gained has to permeate. And to this effect, we started the community outreach program in 1994, only to take it to the community, wherever the community is, even in the cities and then down below.
We also have mobile echo vans in which we can do, if somebody is suspected to have valve disease or heart disease, we can do the echo also right on site. And now we have developed a video conferencing van which will go to our villages, where we can do live interview of the patient and treat them remotely. These camps that we hold, because we know diabetes and heart disease go together. We know high blood pressure and heart disease go together. So these things that we can do as a preventive checkup in the villages helps many, many people.
What's been your experience, Dr. Hiramat?
Well, we run a few programs in my city. They're mostly hospital-based, like hospital will have some kind of insurance by which the patient has to go only to that particular hospital and they would get a discount. Like most of the time, a particular amount for the surgery is paid for by the insurance and the hospital together, and the patient just pays for a few disposable here and there.
Mm-hmm. So there are some of the smaller schemes, such as what you're saying, and there are large-scale ones which are working. I understand that, Terry, there is, for instance, the Genova model as well, which has been in place. There are many other such models. You think, these kind of partnerships are perhaps an important way to really reach out and send the message to people?
Obviously, the cost of care is the number one reason for personal bankruptcy in the country. This is a tragedy, and we look at a lot of the technologies that we have and how to bring those down and substantially bring them down in cost. So, for example, ECG testing, which is a great first-line tool to assess someone's heart condition. We've now got a system that can do that at 9 rupees as a diagnostic, and I think that's the starting point of many of these things we've done. And looking at this in long term, it's how do we bring not only that, but also help with the skills development. It's one thing to have the technology, but do you have the right skills to be able to do that? And I think they're, working with ASHA workers, working with NGOs, as well as the private organizations.
The basic problem is shortage of skilled manpower. Today, if we put up a cath lab in every government hospital in the country, there won't be any cardiologist there to do the angiogram or angioplasty, because we need to increase the number of training positions. US has about 800 training positions to train cardiologists. We are 4 times bigger than them, and we are 3 times more vulnerable for them. And we hardly have 200 training positions to train the cardiologists.
With annual growth in cardiovascular cases hovering above 9%, technology in treatment has had to advance rapidly over the last decade to keep pace. Developments in diagnostic equipment, stents, pacemakers and newer methods of surgery have had a significant impact on cardiac care treatment and outcomes.
See, you must look at technology in multiple dimensions. You have diagnostic technology, which can be something as simple as a blood test. There are now novel imaging techniques like intravascular ultrasound, OCT, etc., which tells you not only whether there's an obstruction or not, but even if there's no obstruction, if there's a plaque, whether it's inflamed and unstable or not. New techniques are emerging like renal nerve denervation. Even for things like aortic valve replacement, which used to be previously possible only by aortic valve open heart surgery, now you can do it percutaneously through without opening the heart or the chest and replace the aortic valve. So there are a number of new techniques that are coming up for a variety of effective life-saving treatments.
So in 25 years, a revolution has happened in the treatment of heart disease, from disease processes which could not be treated safely even 25 years ago, for which crude devices existed. There were no stents to treat blockages in that time. It was crude techniques with which we were treating people and trying to make them better, to a perfection at this stage where there are medicated stents which have a safety of 99.5%, or beating heart surgery, where people don't even go on to a pump.
Dr. Kasliwal, would you say that at this point in time, we know that India has some of the best doctors, we have some of the best institutes, but do we have some of the best technology also available to us to utilize that?
My answer is in the affirmative. Let me take it from the point you left, that I've got the best executive health checkup done, and yet in the foreseeable future I got a heart attack. Why is that? Is there some technology that we were missing at that point and we have it? If you look at your own screen here, it says predict. So from prevention we have gone to a step backward in prediction. Things like looking at intima-medial thickness, non-invasive, or flow-mediated vasodilatation. These may sound big names, but they're actually non-invasive, echo-based tests, which we have tested in the community, and we have found it to be extremely useful.
Terry, here, do you think there's a communication lag here? Because sometimes, if I go to an institute, I'll see these big billboards that we have these latest tests which are available. Why don't you do that? I'll look at my, health package and I'll say, listen, it's not included. How much does it cost? 4,000 rupees? That's okay. I'll drop it. That's the usual thing. But actually, perhaps that's something that I should have taken, was very important and could have saved me a heart attack maybe a couple of years down the line. Is there a disconnect in the communication, you think?
Well, I think in medical technology changes quite rapidly. In fact, I think there's a figure that says once you graduate from medical school, you need to read 23 journal articles a day just to keep current. So it is very challenging. And that being said, I think there's a lot of basic things that we can do and do those well in the community settings as well as in the urban settings. And then get to the bookend, which is even in the short run, as I said, we've got probably 28 lakh heart attacks a year. Half of those people will die, mostly because they can't get to an interventional setting in time, that golden hour that we have. So we're working on ways to, in fact, bring about a test that you could have in the ambulance or at a primary care setting in a village where I could have an expert look at that. I send it by a telecommunication. Someone could read that for me. I could administer a thrombolytic, which means I can open up the window of how much time that person actually has.
Right, and
in addition to that, we're trying to bring down the cost of an interventional lab, which is a very expensive piece of machinery. We're working that in India, in Bangalore, so in our Jack Welch Development Center, where we'll actually bring the cost of this down to a degree that we could have that going out further into the community. Mm-hmm. There's an estimated 1,000 interventional labs that would be needed in India to serve the population.
And that's what we've developed. We've said that with each decade, tests should be different. In the 20s, they should be, and now we are starting as early as 20s and 30s. And women feel that they are immune to it. It isn't so. So we said 20s to 30s, 30s to 40s, so each decade. And we've actually incorporated that in our package for the executives. So yeah.
So actually those tests should be changing. I should be asking many more questions. But, we just heard that point about, okay, you've got these new machines, but I don't have trained people to actually operate it. Do we have enough people to actually run these kind of machines and really give me that outcome that I need?
Well, I'm sure. Every time a hospital purchases such a high-end equipment, they would know, or they will make sure that they have people who would be there and they would know how to use it. I, for one, I'm very fond of the CT angios, which is actually a non-invasive testing. So as somebody is getting to 60s and wants to invest into some kind of big environment, I would feel that he should go in for a CT, just make sure everything is fine before he invests or before he takes something big in his life.
That brings us to the end of part 1 of the special series on Healthier India, focusing on cardiovascular disease. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us.